So welcome to the NCFE and Cash Getting Started with V Certs. What we're going to be talking about today is the approval process, delivery and support. You've got me, I'm Rachel, hello. We've also got Caroline Gallagher, hello. And we've also joined by Chris Tubritt, who is our Qualification Development Manager.
Hello everyone.
So let's get started. Okay, so just a brief overview. Like I say, I've introduced everyone, but Caroline is from our quality assurance team and I'm from the customer development team. So you've probably heard from me this week and knowing you all to take part. So I'm very thankful to everyone that's come along today. Okay, so the aim of today's webinar, what we're going to do is hopefully improve your understanding of V Certs. We're going to talk through the best practice for delivering V Certs, and we're going to go through all of the support and resources that are available to you. I'm going to hand over to Caroline now.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. I'd just like to start with a quick overview of our V Certs. We're sure that you're all familiar with this diagram here, and we know how it is important it is to for you to be able to make sure that you're meeting the requirements of your progress rate within your school. The V Certs have been developed to fit the DFE technical guidance for inclusion in the performance tables. So the process for that is the DFE require all AOs to submit the qualifications for review annually, whether this is existing or new or redeveloped qualifications. We only can do this 2 years in advance, unfortunately, so when a qualification goes live, it will be approved for the table 2 years later. When we submit that to the DFE, they'll go off and review this, and the decisions are made as to what they will actually accept on the performance tables, and then they'll release those performance tables, as you know, in December, giving you the options of what you want to put onto your curriculum for your learners. We totally understand this is out of our control in terms of timing and things like that, and it does give you a challenge in terms of school planning your curriculum and things, and we do keep trying to pester about that, but it is out of our control at the moment. We've got a quick guide for the DFE for all our V Certs that have been accepted on the performance tables. So if you go to our website, this guide will actually list all the qualifications, the tables that they're actually approved for, and you can refer to this for your planning. So the V Certs sit in the third bucket. Your learners can take up to 3 qualifications from this three bucket, and that depends on the actual weighting for the qualifications and the size of the qualification as well. So you can run V Certs alongside other qualifications, but please be mindful of what the discount codes are for the qualifications that you're running side by side. We have our discount codes on the website, but if you're looking at other awarding organisations' qualifications, please look at the DFE website and they'll make sure, just to make sure there's no clashes there with your discount codes, because obviously only one qualification will count in your performance table. Each learner will get a certificate, but it's just that all important performance points that you'll need to check that there's no discount on there. So the V Certs are an equivalent to a GCSE. They're a vocational alternative. This means that they're accessible, but they're not an easy option. So you do need to make sure that you recruit your learners in terms of ability. So you make sure that they're on the correct level for what they can achieve within that qualification there. Okay, changes to the GCSE grades. Again, you'll all be familiar with this change in the grading structure. This chart here shows how the V Certs grading structure aligns with the new GCSE grading structure. Applies across all the qualifications in the DFE performance tables here. So our quals will remain unchanged in terms of pass, merit and distinction, or distinction star, and that's across the level 1 and the level 2. And the chart here also shows the performance points that's awarded to each grade as well. As you can see that the distinction star is only the equivalent of 8.5 on that grading structure. This again has been set by the DFE. They don't want any vocational qualifications to be graded any higher or awarded any higher points than an 8.5. They want that 9 just to be awarded to a GCSE only. Rachel's going to be explaining a little bit more about approvals and registrations later on in the webinar. However, when you do register your learners, you'll be allocated your external quality assurance person. This person will be your point of contact for the qualification itself, and they're an absolutely brilliant source of support for you. They'll be the person who will be coming into your centres, doing your EQA visits. They're there on tap to answer your phone calls and your emails. You should get contacted within 5 working days of actually registering your learners to introduce themselves. So it's really handy for you to actually find out where your emails will be going to within the centre. So if you haven't heard from them, check with that person in case they've got the intro email, so you've got that contact there. It's a good idea to get your first visit booked in early with your EQA. They do get really busy. So to avoid any disappointment in terms of having that date that you require, get a date in the diary, and if necessary, then you can change it. Obviously with plenty of notice for the EQAs, but that's a date that you set between yourself and your EQA. So you're ready to deliver your qualification to your learners. Each unit gives you the information on guided learning hours, your learning outcome, and your assessment criteria for each unit. There's also information in the range that exemplifies some of the terms in the assessment criteria. So when you're looking through the qual spec and you see word in bold in the AC, then look at the range and you'll find additional information in there that will help you deliver that assessment criteria. So you plan your delivery, you'll go through the qualification, and then you'll assess the learners. You can use the sample internal assessment tasks on the website, or you can write your own. You'll use the grading descriptors to actually grade the learner's work. So you look at each AC and the grading descriptor for that assessment criteria and award them a grade for that AC. The overall grade for the unit is the lowest grade given for an AC. So you must remember to check that and get that clear as to what they're actually covered within the assessment criteria and that unit as a whole. You then must get this work internally moderated. And then when that's complete, you submit your grades via the portal. If you have any queries about the portal, you can contact our customer support team then. Your EQA at that point will then let you know which learners they'd like to sample when they come out to visit you then. You must have all the work available just in case they want to widen the sample, and take note that you can't moderate work for any learner that hasn't had a grade submitted or that you haven't registered at that point. So make sure you're up to date with your registrations and any grades that you need to submit for the learners. They'll sample across the grades, so they'll ask for samples from someone who's got a pass, merit, distinction. If there's a number of teachers teaching the qualification, they'll also sample across the teachers as well, just to get a good variety there to see how the learners' work is progressing within the centre. If the EQA agrees your grades, that's brilliant, you'll get those grades banked. If they don't, they'll be discussing that with you at the visit, so don't worry about they'll leave the visit and you won't know what the improvement areas are and things like that. So they'll discuss, say, maybe that they don't agree with the merit you've awarded and it should be a pass, or that if you've actually been quite harsh and you should actually be upgrading them as well. At that point, they'll reject the grades, and then you submit the agreed grades, which the EQA will bank, and this is the first submission. Now, I've had a question here on who can be internal moderator, so I'm just going to break off a little bit and answer that. Somebody who is occupationally competent within the centre can be your internal moderator, internal quality assurer. If you've got 2 teachers delivering the qualification, then you can double up. So if your one teacher is teaching one cohort and the other teacher is teaching the other one, then just swap over and you can IQA each other's work. If you haven't got somebody who's occupationally competent within the centre, we get centres who tap into local colleges or other friendly set schools where they can do that networking and sharing of the IQA process then. So it's really a support for you as an assessor, and also to provide that internal quality assurance there as well. So keep those questions coming. If you've got anything else, I'll crack on with the rest of the chat now. So resubmissions. At this point, after you've had your grades banked, you can give the assessments back to the learners so they can resubmit if they want to. So if they've achieved a pass and they really want to try and get to a merit or a distinction, you can then go through the work and actually set additional assessments for them so they can provide additional evidence to that work. Remember that evidence that's produced in other units can be cross-referenced. So if you've got work that you've carried on and started doing in Unit 2 or Unit 4, if you feel that evidence is appropriate to an earlier unit, put it down on the learning, the tracker there, so the moderator knows what you're referring to. And quite often that's how the learners are actually progressing through the higher grades, because as they're going through the qualification, their knowledge gets better and they can actually evidence that higher grade there. So obviously within a resubmission, you would have to then get that work reassessed, internally moderated and externally moderated the next time your moderator comes around there, your external quality assurer. So just a little bit about the external assessment now. The V Certs have different assessments depending on the qualification requirements. So you do need to check your qual spec to see what type of assessment you do have for the qualification that you're interested in running. For example, we've got some that run across an assessment window, some of the craft ones, the creative study ones have a 12-week window. Others have a set date and time where we actually tell the learners on the exact date and time that they have to sit that assessment. So as I say, check the website for the details of the qual. There's also cut-off dates for a few of our processes that you do need to familiarise yourself with as well. So entries, the first time you register a learner, you will be entering them for an assessment. However, if you're wanting to put them in for a resit, you do need to go back in and select an assessment window that you want that learner to sit in. So take note of the cut-off date. If you do miss that cut-off date, there is a late fee that applies. So just try and make sure that you don't have to pay any late fees there for any entries past the date. If your learners require any reasonable adjustments, again, check our guidance on the website. We've got a policy there which tells you what we'll accept in terms of evidence and what you can apply, what's a delegated reasonable adjustment, or what we need to actually approve within the office here. We do accept JCQ authorisation, so if you already have that, that's brilliant. Attach that to the web form when you're submitting the reasonable adjustment. It's a very easy process and we'll get that sent back to you with an approval code on them. If for some reason you've got any clashes with assessment dates that we actually provide, there is an option for you to do an assessment variation there. There are some limits that we won't accept a variation, but obviously put the conditions that you would be wanting to apply, what the change of date, the time, and how you would ensure the integrity of the assessment on the actual assessment variation form. And again, we'll make sure that that's processed and we'll get back quickly with a response for you for an assessment variation. All the assessment window information can be found on the website. You can see a little the leaflet on the right-hand side of the screen there. That's the document that you need to be accessing there. All the assessments need to be conducted within the regulations for the conduct of external assessment. We're not a JCQ organisation, however, we do try to align as closely as possible to JCQ, but please remember that you need to refer to those regs just to make sure that you're delivering that assessment within the guidelines that we set there. The results will be released on the dates advertised in the assessment window document. If the results aren't what you or your learner were expecting, then you can submit an inquiry about results. This will provide you with feedback about the learner's external assessment, but you do need to obtain the learner's consent for this because results can go down as well as up. So just be aware of that if you do put that request in and something's very close to either a pass or not yet achieved, it may well go down. But certainly we'll provide that inquiry about results report and we do aim to get back to you within 30 working days. You must submit the request within 10 working days of the external assessment result and we'll get back to you within 30 working days of that completed request. So once you've got all your banked grades, and that's for the internally assessed units and the external assessment. So that's either for your first submission or the second submission, and also a result for your external assessment, whether that's your first entry or your resit. Then you can claim for the learners through the portal. The system will automatically aggregate the grades and provide an overall grade for the qualification. That aggregation can be found in the qualification spec, so at all times you can look to see how far or what grade you anticipate your learners coming out with if they're looking at internal units. It's worth looking at if a learner achieves distinctions across the board in an internally assessed unit, but only achieves a pass in their externally assessed unit, the overall can still come out a distinction. So it's not necessarily the case that you have to do a resit with that learner to get that distinction. So I'm going to pass you back over to Rachel now, who's going to go over the approvals and registration.
We've got a couple of questions, so if we can just jump onto those. So Gary, hi Gary, thanks for joining me. When is exemplar material released for the different units? Chris, can I hand it over to you, please?
Yeah, I'll just jump in and answer this. There's two approaches to this in terms of we have our new tech awards in the business and enterprise, interactive media, graphic design, and the other one, music technology. So if it's a new qualification for a tech award, we've produced exemplar material, and that's currently going through standardization at the minute to make sure that the standard work is standardized across our moderation team. We'll be looking to make them available throughout November. If it's an existing qualification, such as our certificates, as such, we do have exemplar material on our website at the minute under the qualification page under support materials. We are looking to update that, and we look to hopefully make some new sampler material available within the next 2 to 3 months. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Perfect. And Caroline, can I pass it on to you?
Yes, there's another one from Gary as well. What will the sample sizes be for the moderator? So for your internal moderation, if it's a new a teacher or assessor in a new qualification centre, we do advise you that you do quite a large sample just in the first instance to make sure that everyone's being standardised. So maybe a 50% sample. Your EQA will actually advise you on this, because obviously we're aware that we've got some people who put in very large cohorts of 300 learners plus. So it is difficult to actually be sampling maybe 150 learners. But it's just for you to be sure that you've got a reasonable sample across to verify what those assessment decisions are. In terms of your external quality assurer, again, if it's a new qual, a new centre, they will be looking for a larger sample. But other than that, it's usually around about the square root of the number of registrations or the grades submitted there. So they'll let you know how many they want to see and who those learners are.
Okay, and we've got one more. Okay. Chris, do you want to take that one about the grading?
Yeah, so the question is, I was told my course was graded A star to C. However, we've obviously mentioned in this webinar that it's pass, merit, distinction, and distinction star. And which one is it? It is the pass, merit, distinction, and distinction star. And where there's probably been some confusion is what it's equivalent to the GCSE. So, for example, if the learner comes up with a level 2 distinction star, then that's where the A star equivalency would be to the GCSE. So hopefully that answers that question there.
Yeah, so what we have is that there's the level 1 and level 2, and when we're talking you through it on the form, we'll be saying which one would your learners be applicable to. Are they A star to C learners, or are they D to G learners? And that'll be how you establish what entry to, what level enter them onto.
Okay, there's another question here. If I have my second visit, say, at the end of May, and Unit 3 requires some submission, will I need a third visit? If you've used your second visit and you've got units still outstanding, then yes, you would have to have another visit. If you haven't got any more learners registered in a following session where you would be entitled to your free external assessment, external moderation visits, then you would have to pay for a third visit. But the registrations are, if you register in a session, you get 2 free moderation visits. If you register in the following academic session, you'll get a further 2 moderation visits. So whilst you've got that rolling registration, you should always have 2 free moderation visits session on session. So you shouldn't run out there, because the moderators can backtrack and look through previous academic sessions. However, if you're just running it as a one-off and you do need a third visit, then unfortunately, yes, you would have to pay for that extra visit there.
Right, we'll do one last question and then we'll just move on and we'll pick up some more at the end. So Caroline, can I give that one to you, please?
If you feel a level 2 external qualification and fail, are you then allowed to sit the level 1 external assessment 2 times? Yes, because the level 1 and level 2 qualifications are completely separate, different qualifications. You would have to then register your learners onto the level 1. At that point, they would be entitled to submitting their work for internal units twice. You could map over the work that's already been done within level 2 to make sure that it would hit the assessment criteria, and obviously work with the learner, assessing them if there's any gaps there. But usually if you're mapping down, inevitably you've covered most of the work for the internal units. You then can enter the learner twice if necessary. What you do have to be aware of, though, is obviously when those external assessment windows are. So if you're leaving it quite late within year 11, there may not actually be an opportunity for them to sit that external assessment. So just try and work through what your scheme of work would be and your delivery plan of when you would actually be accessing external assessments. If you're in doubt, give us a call and we can give you talk you through those assessment windows as well.
Okay, brilliant. Keep asking questions. We will pick up some more at the end. Any that we don't answer, we will answer them following the webinar, and we will get the answers sent over to you, but do keep asking. What we'll do now is we'll just go through quickly the approval process and what it means once you become a registered centre. So we've done some nice pictures for you rather than talking, because I know you don't want to listen to me drone on in the Geordie accent for too long. So let's have a little look. So the approval process, this is what we generally do with exams officers. If we're talking with curriculum leads, I'll always say this on the phone, I'm happy to speak with exams officers and guide them through the process. But basically it is just like online shopping. Admittedly not as exciting because there's no clothes and shoes at the end of it, but it's still just easy. So what you would do is you'll find the qualification that you want to deliver in your centre, and you're going to be shortlisting it for approval, which is that big orange button there. What happens after that point, after you've clicked on it, is it will shoot up into the top right hand corner, which is your basket, and it will sit there, and basically you'll shortlist all the qualifications that you're looking to deliver at this point. What you'll do then is you'll click that request approval button, and that will take you through to this stage. And you'll basically be saying, are you an approved centre? If you're not, you'll be filling in your details. Just to make you aware, this is when we'll ask you for proof that you're working with another awarding organisation to speed up the process. And we'll also talk you through the annual approval fee for schools. And then what we'll also say is, can you just fill in some information for us, and we'll get that done for you within 3 working days. If you are already a registered centre and you're looking to expand the portfolio of what you deliver, we'll get you to do this form. It will be a shortened version, but we will ask you to do the same process. So you're shortlisting it and adding it to your basket, and then we'll get that turned around for you within 1 working day. So it's nice and straightforward. If you do have any questions though, just give the customer development team a call and we'll be happy to run you through it. The next part that would come would be your access to the portal. So this is what happens after you become a registered centre, and what we'll do is we'll give you basically the access to this mythical thing that is the portal. I know I make it sound like this magical thing, but it really is really straightforward, nice and easy for exams officers. What will happen is once you've become a registered centre, we will drop you an email and we'll say, hi, welcome to NCFE, we need you to get set up on the portal. At that point, you've got 2 options. You can either ring our centre support team and talk them through over the phone to do with them, or you can go into this screen. You access this through the NCFE website in that top right-hand corner that I showed you before where your basket is. You just click on portal. If you click on that, what you'll have the option is registering here. Now, just to make you aware of it, the person that does click that register here button is basically the keeper, is the gaffer of the quals. So it does tend to be your exams officer that would do this part. What we'll do from then on is add other users. So if they need access to the portal, they can have that. But this is basically your administrator access. So do just bear that in mind if you do decide to do it online. Okay, fun stuff. Let's go through the resources that we've got available. So Caroline has touched on this, but obviously you'll have your dedicated external quality assurer, and that is part of your moderation visits. You'll get 2 free moderation visits per session per registration. What I always bang on about with my centres, as I'm sure you know, is we want you to get those registrations in as soon as possible. What that does is that gives you the access to your moderator, who you'll be able to talk to, ask any questions, and obviously take it from there. We're always at hand. You know, you've got your centre support assistant and you've got your customer development assistant, but we don't always know the answer. So it's good to have them on board. If you've got any qualification specific questions, you can fire it over to them and they will get back to you. Moderators will be assigned to you as soon as you've made your registrations. We'll get that done for you within 5 working days. What you've also got on the website is your qualification specifications, which are your Bible. They will have everything that you'll need for delivering the qualification, all of the learning outcomes, all the assessment criteria, everything is in there. You'll also have delivery guides. We have internal assessment sample tasks. So they are your project briefs. What you can do is, by all means, use those ones. They are there for you to use. If you would like to contextualize any of them or write your own, what we would encourage you to do is to use the assessment check-in service. What that does is we'll just make sure that you're meeting all of the learning outcomes that you need to, and I'll touch on that more in the next slide. What you also have is your external assessment practice papers, so you can run those through with your learners. They match up nicely with the Chief Examiner report. So what you'll get is a review from the Chief Examiner that will sort of talk about the exam window that's just passed, and how the paper's been received, and go through some of the questions with you in more detail. We've also got sample portfolios, learner evidence trackers. There's career cards if you'd like to use them for your parents' evenings. They're really handy, so you can print them off and look at the progression routes available for V Certs. We've also got our fact sheets, which you might have seen pop up on the website in a new place. So they've just kind of appeared this week. They're really good. It will give you a brief overview of the qualification. You do still have to read the qual spec, but it's a nice one to just give you an idea of how the units are laid out and how the assessment works as well. Don't forget, there's all of the video resources that we have on our YouTube channel. So if you're looking for something specific on sort of questions that you might ask centre support, or questions about claiming, banking grades, there's videos that will talk you through that. And then, of course, you can always give us a ring if you can't find the answer online. And there's also IAT for further support for some of our V Cert qualifications. All the information you can find for that is on the website, and it's one of our colleagues, Amanda, who you would need to speak to, and she'll be able to guide you through it and talk you through how that resource works. This is where you find all the support materials. So basically, you'll go onto your qualification page, and if you just look for the support material tab, click on that. All of the resources that you need, all that we've got is there for you. So there's a whole host of things available online. Just to briefly run you through the assessment check-in service. Again, this is all on the website, but I'll just touch on it slightly. So what we have is it's in place for schools who've got pupils registered on the V Cert qualifications, and it's really handy if you are new to V Certs. What we'll do is we'll review one mandatory unit per qualification with registered learners on there, free of charge for you. Once you've had one checked and you're kind of in the swing of things and see what needs to be done, you can then just apply that knowledge to the other units if you are wanting to write your own. But if you are wanting to do some of your own, then we would encourage you to use that service. It is available there for you. Any questions you've got though, just give us a ring and we can point you to it if you're not quite sure where it is on the website. Okay, and just to make you aware of who all of your contacts are, so your customer support team, we've got a special schools team in place there, so if you've got any questions, that's the number you need to ring. If exams officers are wanting to know about registering learners, grades, anything like that, exam windows, give them a call. Quality assurance, if you've got any questions sort of touching on what Caroline's discussed today, you can give her a call. And then the customer development team, so I'm sure you'll have heard from me or one of my colleagues. If you've got any questions about the V Certs or further qualifications, then you know where we are, give us a ring, and we're always happy to chat through it because we love talking. Let's just see if we've got any other questions, and we can run through a couple of them now. Like I said, anything that we haven't covered, we will answer for you at a further date. So let's just see if there's any that we can quickly look at now. If there's not, there might be some that we need to check with the moderators about, but we'll certainly do that. Let's just have a look through and see if there's any there that we can pick up on. Cassie's might be some that we need to speak to moderator about. We're just looking through them all now. I'm going to let the team read through these, and I've just got a couple of things to tell you while we're looking at the questions. Just to let you know if there are any schools who are tuned in now who are delivering our food and cookery V Cert. We've got events next week in Leeds and Manchester. There are still spaces available, and you can find all of the details on the NCFE website. Have a look on there, look for the events, and you'll find all the information there if you'd like to book up for those. And also what I would like to mention is that we know that we've had a lot of schools come over to do our craft V Cert. are aware of that. We're hopefully helping you guys as much as possible. I know I do bang on about this a lot with any centres that I've been talking to, but we do want you to get your registrations in as soon as possible, because there are a lot of you who are asking quite qualification-specific questions. Your moderator is the best person and they will be able to help you. So do get those registrations in if you can. What we will be doing in the next few weeks, hopefully when we're back after half term, we will be doing a specific webinar on craft. So if there is anyone out there who's listening now and you are wanting some more in-depth details on craft, please do keep an eye on the website, and we'll be touching on that in more detail in a few weeks' time.
There's a question here about what the limits are in terms of transferring learners between level 1 and level 2 specifications for the Tech Award. So there's no limit. The actual Tech Award in interactive media is the level 1-2 external assessment. So if you have got your learners registered on level 2, but they're not actually ready, going to be achieving a level 2, and you want to drop them down to level 1, they will have already sat the external assessment. That external assessment grade will count towards that. So it would be a case of actually mapping your work over to make sure that they're meeting the assessment criteria for level 1 and getting that externally moderated. In terms of timescales, it's obviously dependent on being able to get your internal moderation done and your EQA visit done before you need to claim that qualification. So we don't set timescales for having units submitted or anything like that, but you just need to be aware of that for when you're doing your delivery there.
Right, now I know there is a lot of questions. Promise we're not ignoring you. Gary, Susan, we will get back to you. But what we'll do is there are some specific ones, like I say, which are to do with moderation and things like that. So it might be that we need to go away and grab the answers from elsewhere. Promise we're not going to ignore you. We'll get those collated and we'll get those out to you. Caroline, can I just ask you quickly to answer that one, because that is something that we can help with.
Which one's that one?
Do you have details of any forums for particular subjects?
You can check out Facebook pages. We have a lot of our centres who actually set up their own Facebook pages, and where I've seen them, I've tried to access them and provide support on there. So it's worth having a look around the Facebook pages. We also have a lot of centres who set up teacher meets. Again, that's sharing good practice, and they bring portfolios, have a good chat about how they're delivering the qualifications. That's not led by NCFE, that's centre-led. We are starting to look at some champion schools, where these are schools who have actually delivered qualifications, and we're going to be encouraging them to get in touch with schools and actually support schools in terms of delivery, again, run events and teaching meets themselves. That will probably be more NCFE-led. But really, there's other networking practices out there that you can tap into.
Okay, fabulous. Denise, if you could let us know your telephone number, if you could, that would be great. And what I'll do is I'll give you a call when I get out of the room, and I'll talk you through the approval process in more detail. We're going to wrap it up now here, guys. Rachel, will the webinar be available?
Yes, what we're going to do is summarise all the questions that we've not been able to answer today, and you will get a follow-up email. And anyone who has registered, so if you have any colleagues who've been unable to make it today, you will get a roundup of the webinar, the slides, and any questions that we've been unable to answer today. We're going to do a Q&A. There may be some input that we're able to get from colleagues across the business, and some moderation input in there as well. That'll be valuable to everyone. So we'll get that put together and sent out over the next couple of days.
We've just had a quick one there. Can you just confirm where the food and cookery event is on the web pages?
If you go onto the home page, we do have an event section. It's just ncfe.org.uk. It's on the right-hand side. If you scroll down, you'll have our full events listings there. We do have our food and cookery prep to teach. There's IQA and assessor training in there as well. And there are events there, regional events for V Certs specific subjects as well, if you'd like to take a look at what is coming up. And we'll be adding to that over the course of the year.
Great. That was Rachel from our marketing team. I'm really sorry, Rachel. I didn't forget you were here. I didn't, I promise. So thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Like I say, do keep an eye on the website, and we'll give you more updates of what's coming soon. But that craft one, we are hoping to do in the next few weeks. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.